Чё так долго грузит-то, а? Па-па-па-па-па-па-па-па-па-па-па-па-па. Войны бога императора. Так, пойдем-ка на мессу. Жрать охота. Так. Бог. Слово. Примарх. Честь. Ясность.
Pater noster, qui es in celi.
Не, ну что-то разницы я не замечаю. Тук. Ой. Че не заткнулись-то? Я что-то нарушил? Долго это еще будет?
Slow down, bro. In a rush to pray?
Until about the 6th, let them apply themselves to reading. After the 6th hour, having left the table, let them rest on their beds in perfect silence, or if anyone may perhaps want to read, let him read to himself in such a way as not to disturb anyone else. Let none be said rather early, at the middle of the 8th hour, and let them again do what work has to be done until Vespers. Weak or sickly brethren should be assigned a task or craft of such a nature as to keep them from idleness and at the same time not to overburden them or drive them away with excessive toil. Their weakness must be taken into consideration by the abbot. The rule of Saint Benedict, readings on the spirit of silence. Let us do what the prophet says. I said, I will guard my ways, that I may not sin with my tongue. I have set a guard to my mouth. I was mute and was humbled and kept silence even from good things. Here the prophet shows that if the spirit of silence ought to lead us at times to refrain even from good speech, so much the more ought the punishment for sin make us avoid evil words. Therefore, since this spirit of silence is so important, permission to speak should rarely be granted even to perfect disciples, even though it be for good, holy, for it is written, in much speaking you will not escape sin. And in another place, death and life are in the power of the tongue. For speaking and teaching belong to the master. The disciple's part is to be silent and to listen. And for that reason, if anything has to be asked of the superior, it should be asked with all the humility and submission inspired by reverence. But as for coarse jests and idle words, or words that move to laughter, these we condemn everywhere with a perpetual ban. And for such conversation we do not permit a disciple to open his mouth. The rule of Saint Benedict. Readings on
Это еще долго будет, мать твою, а?
When anyone receives the name of abbot, he ought to govern his disciples with a twofold teaching. That is to say, he should show them all that is good and holy, by his deeds even more than by his words, expounding the Lord's commandments in words to the intelligent among his disciples, but demonstrating the divine precepts by his actions for those of harder hearts and ruder minds. The abbot should always remember what he is and what he is called, and should know that to whom more is committed, from him more is required. Let him make no distinction of persons in the monastery. Let him not love one more than another, unless it be one whom he finds better in good works or in obedience. And let him not shut his eyes to the faults of offenders, but, since he has the authority, let him cut out those faults by the roots as soon as they begin to appear. Remembering the fate of Heli, priest of Simon, the well-disposed and those of good understanding, let him correct with verbal admonition the first and second time. But bold, hard, proud, and disobedient characters, he should curb at the very beginning of their ill-doing by stripes and other bodily punishments, knowing that it is written, the fool is not corrected with words. And again, beat your son with the rod, and you will deliver his soul from death.
А вот почему они не могли это проработать хорошенько, а? Неужели сложно сделать так, чтобы вода набиралась в ложку? Сейчас же 20 век. То есть 21. Так.
I'm Gregor, a novice.
I know. I saw you at the ceremony. My name is Nebus, and I'm the provost here. I'm in charge of the monastery's property, as well as handling trade with the outside world.
That means you get to leave the monastery?
No, not at all. I just write lists and send them out.
I'm here to work.
Excellent. I've been waiting for you. There's the alchemist's laboratory. You'll find ingredients in the chests next to it. Today's task, 2 cockerel potions. Once you finish them, you'll find me somewhere nearby. Don't forget to let me know when you're done so I can check them.
Так, что мне еще раз? Два снадобья это, как его? Бычья кровь. Так. Приготовить 2 снадобья петушок в ларце. Так, ингредиенты в ларце. Так.
Someone's been creeping around the corridor at night. What am I saying, creeping? He was stomping about like a bear.
That must have been Brother Cicada. He can't sleep and prays long into the night.
А, понятно. Значит, это дальше становится. Спиритус. Так.
Salve, be well. What would you like?
I've finished my work.
Show me what you've made. Spectacular, Gregor. You've found your talent. Soon enough, you'll be teaching the other novices.
Так, ну у меня есть 4 часа. Да, следующие 12 работы в библиотеке.
Praise be to Christ, brother.
Tell me about yourself.
I'm the provost of this monastery. It's my job to ensure the monks live a humble life and that any surpluses go to the poor. But in reality, I spend all my time making sure my brother's gluttony and the construction of a new church don't swallow up the few resources we have left.
I'm interested in the election of the new abbot.
You're not alone. Everyone's so worked up about that, they spent no time considering how they could make the monastery a better place now.
Why? What's wrong with it now?
Many brothers think more about their stomachs than prayer. The older brethren bend the rules of the order to make them fit their interests. So, to balance the scales, they want the novices to lead exemplary lives. Sin abounds here, just as in the outside world.
What sins are you talking about?
The scripture says, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." I'm sorry, Gregor, it's not my place to speak about the sins of others.
Tell me something about how the new abbot will be elected.
A new abbot has to be elected once the old one dies. All the brethren can vote, with the exception of novices. The abbot's crozier will be conferred on whoever is chosen, and he'll take the vow. When he becomes abbot, the monk spends most of his time dealing with politics outside the monastery, instead of actually leading the monastery. But he still maintains a fundamental influence on life here.
Твою мать-то, он бы мне сейчас даст задание, чтобы это взять книгу Авиценны. А я эту книгу-то раньше-то украл. Черт, а вот что теперь делать? Она у меня, небось, из инвентаря выбралась. Хотя нет, она крестовая. Крестовый предмет, наверное, не убралась.
Can you tell me about Abbot Peter?
Peter's wise in the ways of politics and a good shepherd, but as you've already heard, he's old and infirm. The other brothers see him with one foot in the grave, but I still have hope for him. You, don't let yourself get involved in the games of your superiors. Could you help me with something?
With what?
I'm interested in medicine, and I know there's a cure for the abbot's ailment. With your help, I could find out the details, and together you and I could give old Peter a few more years to do good. What do you say?
What do you need me for?
In order to get the recipe for this medicament, a few rules will need to be broken. Now you know most of the brothers believe every illness is a message from God, and that it's not our place to deny his will. I, however, think if God sent us not just illnesses, but also the medicine to cure them, then it's our duty to relieve people of their suffering. The cure for Abbot Peter's illness could be contained in one of the books in our library, but it will certainly be amongst the Libri Prohibiti, the forbidden books, those we aren't permitted to read.
Why are they forbidden?
Because they contain occult and demonic practices, witchcraft and all manner of evil. Or so some people claim. It's nonsense, of course. This is nothing but a book of medicine, albeit one written by a pagan. Ibn Sina, also known as Avicenna, is universally acknowledged to be a wise man. But here, at some point, someone decided his book is the work of a Saracen devil and must be kept under lock and key. Since then, no one can even talk about the book. But the three wise men were from the East, were they not?
Where can I find it?
In the library, there's a large cabinet with a lock on it. The forbidden books are inside. You'll easily recognize what you're looking for. The cover has not only a Latin inscription, but also Saracen letters. Bring it to me, but leave the other books there. No one will notice if one book disappears, but if more were to vanish, someone would certainly begin to look into it, which is exactly what we don't want.
Is there anything you can tell me that would help?
There's a key to the cabinet in the prior's chambers. It should have another one. Or you can acquire some lockpicks. But I can't tell you where or how. Perhaps Brother Salarius could help.
Why can't you do it yourself?
Because I'm one of the highest-ranking monks here, and one day I'd like to become abbot. Can you imagine me crawling around in the black of night searching for a forbidden book?
You could just ask for it.
Do you honestly think I haven't tried? Unfortunately, Librarian Cyril is a stubborn ass.
I'm ready.
One more important thing. There's always someone in the library during the day. To pass unwatched, you'll need to go at night. It's locked, but I'm sure you'll manage to get in. They say Brother Salarius understands locks, but don't tell him why you need it. Once you have the book, bring it to me, and I'll then use it to make Peter's medicine. We'll soon have the election of the abbot over and done with.
Is there any way I could help you get elected? Somehow tip the scales in your favour?
What would you like to do? Climb up the tower and shout, "Vote for Nevolis, vote for Nevolis"?
Not exactly. You do have an opponent, John.
John isn't my opponent, he's my brother. Just like you and everyone else here. We're all brothers in Christ. But there is something you could help me with. You must know there's a great deal of iniquity here in the monastery. I'd be interested to hear of anything I don't know about.
Should I find out for you what's going on around here?
Let me make this clear. I want to base my candidacy on putting things in order. But if I don't know exactly what's wrong, then my promises are just empty slogans.
Very good then. I'll find out what I can.
Thank you, brother.
What do you want me to find out?
I'd be interested to hear about any iniquity in the monastery. I need to prepare myself for what I'll be facing.
Is there any way I could help you get elected?
What would you like?
Not exactly.
John, but there is
That doesn't sound...
pity. And I thought you...
Is there any way I could...
What would you like to do?
Not exactly.
John isn't... But there is something you could help me with. You must know there's a great deal of iniquity here in the monastery. I'd be interested to hear of anything I don't know about.
That doesn't sound like some...
Pity?
I'm interested in the...
You're not alone. Everyone's so...
Why? What's wrong with it?
Many brothers...
Так.
I'd be interested to know more about Brother John.
I don't like to speak ill of people, but Circuitor John is the worst person the monks could pick to represent.
Добро пожаловать на стрим.
He's nothing but an old schemer and pedant who preaches water but drinks wine. He's won the older brethren over because they know he won't call an end to their debauchery.
Why do you want to become abbot?
Because when I see the way things are headed around here, I have no other option. Itinerant preachers speak of the corrupted black heart of the church, and I can't deny there's truth in what they say. I'd like to change things and bring back meaning and esteem to the monastery.
That's all. Thank you.
Peace be with you.
Ох, великий апостол. Так. Надеюсь, эта книга Авиценны чудесным образом появилась в библиотеке. Так. Что-то я не понял. А почему у меня ведение боя уменьшилось? У меня ж 2 царик был. Что за ересь, а? Я ж в тюрьме не сидел. Мазафака.
Talk to me, brother.
I'd like to ask... Who's in charge of things around here?
Abbot Peter is the administrator of the monastery, but you don't see him. He's always traveling, and on top of that, he's old and infirm. Perhaps the good Lord will bless him with many more years of life.
And what happens when the old abbot dies?
Then we elect a new one.
Tell me something about life here.
Prayer, work, obedience. That just about sums it up.
Can you tell me something about the rule of St. Benedict?
7 centuries ago, St. Benedict of Nursia wrote a collection of monastic rules, which we still follow today. They're read at every meal. The fundamental precepts are obedience, work, and prayer. We're fully devoted to serving God. The outside world, beyond the monastery walls, is foreign to us.
Do you never want to know what's going on out there?
And what should be going on? The sky is just as blue and the grass is just as green. Perhaps the rulers change, but the greatest ruler of them all will remain unchanged through the ages.
I'm interested in the monastery's history.
It was founded by St. Procopius 500 years ago. After his death, heretics occupied the place for some time, but then the order was restored and brothers of the true faith returned.
Heretics, you say?
They wanted to worship God with some foreign rituals in a language foreign to God. They were driven away and their books burned.
What are the roles of the various monks here?
Well, the abbot is the head, but he's not here now. Then there's the prior and the sub-prior, the librarian, the porter, and many others. As a novice, you should be particularly mindful of the circuitors. They're the ones who maintain discipline and punish bad behavior.
What can you tell me about the novices here?
What can I say? You're here to demonstrate your devotion to God and to live a monastic life. After a year, you can make your vows and become a fully fledged brother.
I meant something specific about the brothers that are here.
But you know them yourself. Yodok is an odd one, but he's diligent and eager. Perhaps too eager. Siskin is good company, but a bit too worldly for a monk. Antonius is hard-working and will help with anything, but prays less than he ought. Lucas is as quiet as a mouse, and no one knows much about him. And then we have you, about who I know nothing.
Can you leave the monastery?
Where would you go? You have everything you need here. Anyway, all the doors here are closed and locked tight, so no one can get in or out.
Ну, вроде бы все я узнал у него. Так. Так, сколько там времени? Пока что есть время. Па-па-па-па-па-па-па-па. Не понял. Что? Что-то я не понял. Не понял. Я же... Ладно. Это ересь. Добро пожаловать на стрим. Святой император, а? Да я же выполнил его задание, почему не могу идти?
Gregor.
А я все не понимал, почему квест-монастырь так ругают и в общем, не понимал я, почему этот квест так людей бесит. Теперь понимаю. Теперь понимаю. И что мне делать?
Stop, Gregor. Brother, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be...
I had other affairs that needed to be attended to immediately. It will never happen again.
Really? Fine then. This time I will forgive you, but next time you'll be punished just like everyone else.
I'm Gregor and I'm new here.
I know. I saw you in the church during ceremony. I have the feeling we'll be meeting again soon, and often. You see, I'm the circator.
What does that mean?
I make sure everyone observes the rule, does their work, and that everything's the way it should be.
When it's not the way it should be?
Then we're authorized to mete out punishment. But certainly you won't require correction, will you, brother?
Матерь Божья.
What do you desire, Brother Gregor?
I'd like to ask... Who would you like to be the new abbot?
What kind of question is that? John, of course. Neville isn't the kind of candidate you can take seriously.
Who's in charge of things around here?
Abbot Peter is the administrator of the monastery, but you won't see him.
And what happens when the old abbot dies?
Then we elect him.
Are there any candidates to be the new abbot?
Yes, there are. Brothers John and Neville. Cursed elections. Since the brothers began talking about them, there's only been strife in the monastery. On one side are brothers who'd like to see John as abbot, on the other those who support Nevillus, and they seem to be kept...
Tell me about John.
John is a Socator and the oldest brother here. It would be only natural if we took the crozier for Peter. He has experience, merit, and composure. He'd lead the monastery wisely.
I'd like to know about Nevillus.
Nevillus manages the monastery's property. He doesn't have the most experience, but his drive and heart are pure, his faith firm, and his ideas rational, although perhaps he's too keen to change our routines here, which many brothers don't like.
Why does it matter so much who wins?
Because the future direction of the monastery hangs in the balance. The younger brothers feel they have to work more than their superior brothers, and that some brothers are more concerned with their own comfort than with worshipping God. The older brothers take a different view. They say the younger monks want privileges they haven't earned, and each side has its own candidate.
I thought politics weren't part of the monastic way of life.
You're right. But we know nothing besides the monastery, and the abbot's decisions can influence our entire life. Some of the brothers take it very personally.
Are there ever any disagreements between the brothers?
Unfortunately, yes. The biggest quarrels right now are about the election of the new abbot. They can already see poor Peter in his grave.
Tell me something about electing the abbot.
The old abbot is practically on his deathbed. There are two candidates. Half the monastery wants John, the other half Nevillus, and there's no chance they'll come to an agreement. But you've probably already noticed the atmosphere around here.
Не спалился. Ёбаные баги, а? Вот абсолютно нифига не понимаю. Я не знаю, что мне делать. Вот просто не знаю.
Peace be with you, brother.
Что-то я заблудился малость.
What troubles you?
I'm here to work.
Good. This is most likely the first time you've ever done this in your life. But it's easier than you think. Just a bit of practice and learning Latin. Here's the original, and here are the blank parchments on which you'll copy what you read in the original. Is that clear? Then you may begin, and try not to make a mess of it.
Ебать. Ох, сука. Так, это загогулина. Нонем. Ёбаный в рот, а. Ох, сука. Так. Ты... Что мне убирать-то, блин? Вот это вот красное нужно выбрать, а вот непонятно, что это вообще за ересь. О, на О заканчивается вроде. Ну да, на О в принципе заканчивается. Тут никакое слово на О не заканчивается. А, вот сверху. Так. Короче, на монастырь мне терпения не хватает. Надо в какую-нибудь другую игру поиграть.
Can you read at all? I've never seen so many mistakes.
Так, не. Так. В жопу. Так. Твою мать, да, почему опять выйти не могу?
What troubles you?
I've heard about Avicenna's book of medicine. Could I see it?
Who told you about that? Of course you can't.
I've heard there are some forbidden books locked up in the library.
That's correct. They're here, safely hidden away from anyone who might be tempted to read them.
How does a book get on the forbidden list?
Forbidden works are full of heresy and blasphemy and witchcraft. If you ask me, we should burn them immediately, not archive them.
Could a book be prohibited by mistake? Maybe a good book or a useful one?
No errors are made. Every book on the prohibited list is there for a reason. Who am I to doubt the wisdom of Mother Church?
What if I just wanted to take a peek? Could I?
You could not. They are libri prohibiti, and the only people permitted access to them are the abbot and I. Although I see no reason why he or I would ever want to read them.
Not even if I were to beg? Or promise a favour in return?
If you could prove to me that you truly like books, then maybe.
I don't need to hear anything else. Is it possible to learn something about the other novices in the library?
Only the abbot and the prior keep such records.
And can I see them?
No. The abbot writes and keeps his records in his chambers, and only he and the prior are permitted to read them.
Is there anything I can do to help here?
I'm glad you asked. There's one thing, a silly thing really. I haven't thought to mention it to anyone before, but not long ago, a brother brought me a crumpled piece of parchment. He says he found it rolled up in a hole in the wall. The thing is, it was a page from Ovid.
Ovid? What is that? Is it the name of a book?
Not what, but who? Ovid was a great Roman poet. We have a few volumes by him in the library, but one of them vanished one day. Now I believe I can guess what happened. Brother Eustace, may the earth rest lightly on him, was quite narrow-minded when it came to classical literature. If a book had any mention of woman at all, he condemned it as a heretical work. If he'd had his way, all such books would have been burned. Ovid's The Art of Love must have been such a thorn in his side that he stole it from the library, tore it up, and hid the pages wherever he could.
Can you tell me something about the book?
The Art of Love is a sort of manual instructing young people how to find and maintain love. It's a lovely work. I don't understand what bothered Eustace so much about it, but as I was saying, he considered the book to be immoral and tore it up to stop it corrupting any of his brothers.
Oh, would you like me to put the book back together again?
Absolutely! Eustace's wits weren't the sharpest, so I'm sure he didn't destroy any of the pages. I imagine he hid them throughout the monastery. It might take you a while to find them all, but when you do, you can rest assured Ovid will return to his rightful place in the library.
Good. I'll look around for it.
Thank you, brother. It's of no great importance, but if you can find all 10 pages, I'll be most grateful.
Where should I look?
If I knew, I wouldn't have asked you to do it. The pages of the book could be hidden anywhere, from the garden to the refectory.
I'd like to ask you something about the monastery. The forbidden books must be in that cabinet.
It contains forbidden books.
Да. Книги Авиценны тут нету. И как проходить, я вообще не знаю. Эх, не надо было все книги пиздить.
Forbidden
books written by the devil himself. Forget about them. Don't even look at that cabinet. It contains forbidden books.
Амус ут гуи.
Ah, Gregor.
Святой император. Так.
Praise be to our Lord Jesus.
Пизду. Так.